Georgina Garlinga was born in Brighton, England on October 29, 1987. Her parents are Andrea and Gaston Garlinga. Georgina's family moved to Libya soon after she was born, and that's where she spent most of her youth. They moved back to the UK in 1998 and lived in Worthington, West Sussex. Georgina's life as an adult was pretty unstable. She dealt with social anxiety and bulimia, and she also smoked weed and drank alcohol. People who knew her well, on the other hand, said she was articulate, smart, and devoted to her two boys. Georgina left her mother's house around 9:30 a.m. on March 7, 2018, with plans to meet her father at a phone shop. Around 9:50 a.m., she went to the Clifton Food and Wine Shop to ask about fixing her phone. This was the last time anyone saw her for sure. She didn't show up for her meeting with her dad or go to the neighborhood job center like she said she would. Her cell phone was last used around 3 a.m. that same day, but it stopped working around 11:30 a.m. and never came back on. Georgina's mother called Sussex police on March 17th to say that she was missing after she didn't pick up her sons as agreed. The police's investigation into Georgina's disappearance began slowly at first, treating her like any other missing person. In England and Wales, most people who go missing are quickly found or come back on their own, which means that police teams are often pushed thin. Still, as the study went on, there were more and more signs of foul play. Several ideas were put forward. Georgina could have run away on her own to avoid personal problems. She could have hurt herself, or she could have been abducted or killed. There were no more transactions in her bank account and she stopped communicating. Even though there have been many public appeals and a segment on BBC's Crime Watch, no sign of Georgina has been found. Because Georgina's family wasn't happy with the official investigation, they started their own, crowdfunded probe. They used social media, set up area searches, talked to retired detectives, and figured out where Georgina was when she was last seen. This private effort led to leads and reports, but many of them turned out to be false or couldn't be confirmed. 2 men were briefly arrested but were later freed without being charged. In August 2019, Sussex police turned the case into a murder investigation, and with the help of the Crime Stoppers charity gave a reward for information that led to a conviction. Still, the family's hopes for the investigation's speed and resources were not met. This led to claims that the police were not doing enough and missed chances in the early crucial days. Georgina's absence is still a mystery that makes people feel uneasy. Her mother and her sisters are still trying to figure out what happened and are asking anyone with information to come forward. The police say they have followed up on good leads, but the lack of clear developments only adds to the uncertainty. This case is a reminder how hard it is to find people who have gone missing and how much these deaths hurt families who are still hoping for closure. I will leave the resources in the description below if you would like to help Georgina's parents on this case. The deaths of Barry and Huddy Sherman in December 2017 remain one of Canada's most perplexing unsolved murder cases. They were married for decades and were worth about $4.7 billion. They got rich through Apotex, which is one of the biggest companies in the country that makes generic drugs. Because of their wealth and Barry's reputation for being a tough lawyer, they had a lot of friends and enemies. Both were found dead in their indoor pool, strangled and staged with belts around their necks. This made the story even scarier. At first, Toronto police thought the crime might have been a murder-suicide because the scene was so strange, and it was hard to figure out what happened in the couple's $6.9 million home. As more proof came in though, investigators had to admit that it was possible that the Shermans were the victims of a planned double murder. The victims' wrists were bruised, and a smaller ligature, not the belts around their necks, was likely what strangled them. This was found by a private team hired by the victims' families. These details led to many people to think that the killer had put the couple's bodies in a dramatic position to send a message. The investigation quickly turned to the couple's complicated business and family ties. Barry had a lot of enemies because he liked to sue rivals, tradespeople, and even family members. He had just won a case brought by cousins who said they were entitled to a share of his wealth, which adds to the list of possible reasons. At the same time, Honey's interactions with the Sherman children caused family ties to be said to be in bad shape. Police asked the kids if they knew anything about what happened. Each of them had their own idea about who might be guilty, which shows how complicated the case really was. Even though police and privately paid investigators are working together, there are still a lot of people on the list of suspects. These include angry business partners, estranged relatives, and even people who haven't been identified. CCTV footage of a man with a unique walk that was taken near the Sherman home around the time of the killings is an important piece of evidence. The video shows that this person walks away from the camera for a strange amount of time and then walks back the way he came. At first, investigators thought that the cell phone tower data could help them figure out who this person was. However, years later, the person's name is still a mystery. Another confusing factor is the chance that the killer or killers purposely posed Barry and Honey to look like the piece of art the couple owned, statues that their children were said to hate. This small detail gives the stage a more personal touch. Some people think that the Sherman children themselves might have been the audience for this bizarre scene. After 7 years, no one has been caught. The family is offering huge rewards. At first $10 million, which Barry and Honey's son Jonathan later raised to $25 million. No solid leads have come up. Journalist Kevin Donovan and others are still demanding answers and criticizing the police for taking too long to release evidence such as the CCTV video. The case is still a mystery. It looked like the murder scene was carefully planned, and the victim's wealth and fame drew a lot of attention. However, the main question of who committed this shocking crime is still unknown. Michaela Bali went missing from her hometown of Yorkton in Saskatchewan, Canada on April 12, 2016. She was 16 years old. Even though surveillance footage and eyewitness reports show exactly what she did that day, no one knows what happened to her after she left the local bus depot. Over the years, her disappearance has led to many ideas. Both investigators and the public are trying to figure out if she ran away, was a victim of human trafficking, or was hurt by an online predator. She was born on July 2nd of 1999 and grew up in Yorkton with her mother and other family members. Teenagers knew her as a quiet, loving person who liked playing the violin and never ran away. But in her social life at school, she was sometimes picked on because of her pimples. From what I've heard, she was feeling more sure of herself around the time she disappeared. She sent messages to friends the day before she went missing that made it sound like she was having problems and needed help. But it's still not clear what those problems were. Michaela left her high school on April 12th in the morning, but she was soon caught on camera leaving the building at 8:30 a.m. She went to a pawn shop and took out a small amount of cash from her bank account and spent a lot of time going in and out of a Tim Hortons and Wendy's restaurant. She seemed to make several calls there, and she even asked a stranger to help her book a hotel room. Next, Michaela went to the nearby STC bus depot to ask about a bus to Regina. At noon, she went back to her school for a short time before going to a restaurant connected to the depot. Between 1 p.m. and 1:45 p.m., people saw her leave that restaurant. After that, nothing is known about what she did or where she is. Even though cops have searched again and released a lot of surveillance footage, they still don't know what happened to Michaela. Even though she used her phone all morning the day she went missing, her cell phone company did not record any regular calls. Instead, she probably used social media apps, which made things harder for detectives. From that point on, her bank account was empty and she didn't have her passport, which made it impossible for her to easily move on to other countries. Even after the RCMP investigations, private work by her family, and large public campaigns with prize offers that now add up to $100,000, there is still no clear lead. Over time, many sightings have been reported across Canada, but police have proven that none of them are definitely Michaela. A lot of different ideas try to explain what happened that April day, based on what she said about being unhappy. Some classmates and outsiders think she may have decided to run away. Michaela's mother, on the other hand, doesn't believe this story because her daughter left important medicines and cash for emergencies at home. Other ideas say she might have been a victim of human trafficking, which is a known problem in the nearby areas where workers who move around a lot can be exploited. In the end, detectives are very worried about Michaela's heavy use of social media and the chance that she was tricked by an online predator. She used a lot of fake names on chat apps like Kik, which can help bad people stay anonymous. Michaela's disappearance has continued to get a lot of attention from the media and support from the community. Podcasts, news shows, and social media groups have all helped get the word out, and her mother is still pushing hard to find answers. Michaela did normal things on the day she vanished, like getting food, checking bus times, and texting friends. This is exactly what makes the case so strange. Years of public appeals and police work have not led to a confirmed sighting or clear proof of her whereabouts. But Michaela's family still has hope that they think someone somewhere might know how to get her back. Camille Gordon, a 23-year-old student and bar hostess, was stabbed to death at the Blue Bunny Club in Soho on March 1st, 2004, but her murder has not yet been solved. Camille was born in Jamaica but moved to the UK in 2001 and was now going to school in Birmingham. She eventually moved to London in search of better job options. To make extra money, she worked at a club in the middle of Soho's red light district. Camille was working the door at about 6:30 p.m. on the night she died when a guy came in, paid £5 to get in, and went to a private area with her. People who went to the Blue Bunny Club paid to be with women, but they weren't allowed to be sexual. The man was given a bill for £375, which he reportedly couldn't pay, and was then let outside. At 7:10 p.m., another man who police think is the same person came into the club through the front door and ran toward Great Windmill Street. After a short time, Camille stumbled downstairs and screamed that she had been stabbed. She fell down with a single knife wound to the heart and was declared dead soon after. The Metropolitan Police were giving a £20,000 reward to anyone who can help them find out more. A person of interest was seen entering the Piccadilly Circus tube station soon after Camille was killed, according to new CCTV video. The suspect is a black man between the ages of 20 and 25 who's between 5'5" and 5'8", and wears a dark baseball cap, white sneakers, and an indigo jacket with a big Cleveland Indian sign on it. Another man who might be important showed up at Kennington Police Station 2 days after the murder. He was described as a white guy around 35 years old with light brown hair and strong cheekbones. He didn't say anything. Investigators are still looking for information that can help them figure out who these people are. It is still hoped that new developments in forensics, along with increased public awareness and the prize, will inspire possible witnesses or anyone who knows what happened in Camille's last moments to come forward. It's been 20 years, but cops say it's never too late to get justice for Camille and give her family peace of mind.